the primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI 6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Len Ward, thank you so much for joining me on the AI 6 podcast.
Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Well, listen, hey, the whole world is talking about AI, but we're knee deep in it. We're practicing it. Tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about what you do, and particularly around AI at the moment.
Sure. So Len Ward, I'm the managing partner of Commexis, and our main focus with companies is bringing them from the search and retrieve world to the solve my problem world. So everything before this time was, go search for something, gather results, look at your answers, read through your information, all your data, and then systematically work through a decision process. With AI, that has all changed. So we're getting our customers to be able to answer their clients' questions quicker. Their internal processes can get answered right away if there's any bottlenecks and so forth. So again, search and retrieve to solve my problem.
And is this a solution that you've custom built and then you tailor to clients?
Yeah, so we come in with just do like an AI blueprint, and we start with marketing and sales because that's the easiest thing for people to understand. And we, before this iteration, we're a marketing agency, full service for the better part of 20 years. So yes, we kind of map out a blueprint because that's your revenue engine. That's where you got to keep making the money. So we tell clients, let's start with marketing to make sure that you are making marketing or making money in the AI world. And then we kind of expand out to sales, customer service, internal processes, and so forth.
And so what sort of use cases are you seeing then now with that more kind of more elaborate agentic approach?
So the number one thing we're noticing that's becoming very valuable for clients is the need for an AI chatbot on the website. So that's something where we build out data rooms of information that may not be public facing, but they don't mind, customers or clients having it. It's just too much for their website and the website. So if you go to the website, you actually can interact with this chatbot, and it's not like the chatbots we're used to where it really doesn't give you an answer or it's just trying to grab a lead. These things are actually answering questions, solving problems, repairing information or repairing products if you have if you're troubleshooting something. So they're really strong. So that's the first thing we're doing. And the second thing we're doing is also flipping that and making that an internal process as well, where we're kind of creating, data rooms with all of the customers' information, all of their, internal, SOPs and so forth, and they can interact with the chatbot as well. Once that's started and they see the instant results of it and they feel safe because it's in a secure environment, then we start moving out to other types of products.
And do you have any average conversion rates on when you've integrated those chatbots from people just passively browsing to actually it becoming a warm lead or a hot sale even?
So it actually is increasing the qualified leads. We are seeing qualified, not necessarily more leads, because the funny part is that brings up a whole nother topic of Google just not sending the traffic it used to be sending to your website, right? But the people that are coming to your website, you have to make sure that you are capturing them quickly. And they are more and more looking for a ChatGPT or Gemini type solution. So we are noticing that the quality of the lead is definitely increasing. And I also think the other thing that's happening is from an internal standpoint, team members feel a little better because it's not, let me get back to you or let me go reach out to somebody. Now I can give you an answer almost immediately. So that really ramps teams up pretty quickly. So that's typically what we're seeing the most when we implement it.
Yes, you've got a double win there. You've got better quality leads coming and also offsetting that admin follow-up that teams have. So what sort of kind of software are you using? Are you using open source models? Obviously, you're training the data on the customer's own internal data. What's your process? Without telling us any trade secrets?
No, you're not telling any secrets. So the way we look at it is I don't think there's any secrets in AI. We like to look at ourselves as AI pilots. So we will jump in and we will fly any of these systems around. So anything from OpenAI, Claude, not really Meta too much, but Replit, Lovable, Supabase. So you kind of name it. Now we're even moving into OpenClaw. We actually just started testing that. And that's an amazing product, by the way. But so we basically, our thought process is let's understand all the major foundational AI tools out there. And what I mentioned, I do believe are more foundational LLMs and so forth. And then if we can pilot them, any changes that those foundational ones make, we can adjust with those changes. So a lot of times, you may have a software product built on OpenAI or maybe on like Replit, and then they go and do a change that renders it useless. We can turn around quickly and rebuild something on Replit or Lovable again and so forth. So rather than trying to come up with proprietary softwares, proprietary systems, our thought process is we can fly any of these planes. So just tell us which plane we need to get to the destination and we'll be able to fly it.
Great. And then in terms of your client's perspective, are you teaching them as well as creating solutions for them? Is that like a two-pronged approach?
It is. So the way we've been doing it is clients, every single piece of any type of like software, if you want to call it, that we're building, we always make sure we have like what's called a conversation room in there. So, and that's a great thing if anybody's working on AI right now. Make sure you have a conversation room, discussion room, and they can ask questions in there. We're notified immediately and we can respond. And our client base is small. We like to keep it small. So worst case, we just jump through the phone or jump on video, jump on a phone call, and we walk them through it. So that's typically how we train them. But we are moving into the spot of probably by next week, we're going to start recording 30-minute videos on how to do Notebook LLM. This is how you hook up an API. Because the thought is if we all understand AI, where we're all headed, that eventually clients are going to be piloting a lot of this on their own. They're going to need help, but they're going to be piloting it on their own. So that's kind of our thought process is let's train them, let's get them ready. And once they're in flight at that point, we're always there to consult them.
And what role are leadership taking on this? Are they leading from the front, or do you have curious team members who are kind of innovating and, they become part of that circle of influence internally?
I think it's typically from the top bottom. It's really refreshing coming from the digital marketing world, how CEOs and presidents and business owners are taking a hands-on approach with AI. I think they realize the importance of it. So we are doing that and training all the way down. But one of the rules we have is we need to be able to work directly or have direct communication with the CEO or business owner. It's the only way this is going to get implemented. Because if not, you're looking at a team that thinks this is, an imminent threat to their job and so forth. And when it's not, if we're training the right way.
And how fast is this? Because we know the capability with AI is so accelerated that it can make this process much quicker than the old-fashioned way of, putting a design brief together and back and forth with developers. Is there an average time frame for a typical project?
Well, if you're just going to do individual products, like if we're going to build out let's say we're going to build out an entire platform for an AI platform, so long as we understand the bottlenecks, we understand the actual blueprint, and most importantly, understand the outcome you're trying to get to, that's like probably the most overlooked part of building these things. We can have something done in a couple of days, which is not too long. It's just a matter of really understanding how to properly prompt these things and hook up everything. But outside of that, if we are trying to do a full implementation of AI, let's just say we're trying to do all of it, running their marketing, we're getting chatbots, that could take a few months to kind of get ramped up. But we go immediately in for quick wins right away with AI. So that kind of feeds the dragon while we're on the back end of building things that are a little more laborious.
So there are identified use cases that are agreed internally that will have an immediate impact on bottom line or productivity, right?
Yeah. I mean, and probably the number one thing I tell people is the reason I'm so big on AI chatbots and either build one or pull one off the shelf and put it on your website is you'll never have to think about the content you're going to write again. You'll never have to think about what's my content strategy, what's my branding strategy. I've never put one of these systems on a customer's website and have never not heard in the first meeting. I never thought my client would ask that. We never looked at it from that angle and so forth. So you are only creating from that point forward a content calendar that resonates with what your customers are looking for. So it's a massive win. And when you get that installed, that gets the internal marketing team or sales team, that gets them moving. And, that can kind of keep them, busy for quite a while you're building out the other stuff.
Mm. And so how mainstream would you say agentic AI is in businesses that you're working with? And do some of those organizations have teams of agents right now?
No, I think we're still far ways away. I think the media podcast that we're on, I think has sped us up a little bit further than we really are. And I think that there's there's a thing about agents. And I think a lot of people are like, well, that's an agent. Agent is actually something, and this, that actually starts a task, works on a task, and finishes the task all the way from beginning to end without you really, supervising it too much. I think we're there in parts with like an OpenClaw. I think we're there in parts with some things with Claude, but I don't think we're fully at the agent spot. We even call a couple things agents, where we've chained together a bunch of custom GPTs in one of our dashboards and they can work together. But I'll be honest, you're still doing a lot of human oversight. So I think the word agent's thrown around loosely, but I do think by the end of 2026, the smart companies are going to have an agent or two, like literally, that they're looking at as employees that are working right next to you. That's coming.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you see the likes of the main large language model players introducing agentic AI into their platforms and making them mainstream, that's a sure signal that it's coming down the track. What about the fears and the barriers to full AI deployment that you're seeing with your clients? Does it come down to data security? Is that the big one? Is it culture? Is it fear of job displacement?
I think it's everything you just said. I think that's what everybody's talking about. And to my biggest fear of AI, I tell people all the time is, first and foremost, forget everything else. You need to look at security, number one, because I don't think any of us truly understand what hacking is going to look like in this world. I know that there's some things we've seen and so forth, but I've long said I believe IT people are going to take on a whole new level of importance in business. So it's truly critical to listen to them, but that's where one of the bottlenecks happens. But not to the point where you're stopping implementation of AI. Because sometimes, as much as I respect IT people and I think they're brilliant, the problem is sometimes they get overly conservative with certain things and there is really no growth. So I think that's the first thing that people are definitely, especially the companies I'm working with, they're very little leery on. They're trying to figure that out. And then there is the job loss. And there is this, hey, this is going to replace me. Wait a minute, that is my job. That's what I do. What am I going to do? And I tell people, my thought process on AI is, hey, there may not be a team of 100 people in your department anymore, but if people think that the humans are just going to be removed completely from the element altogether, I don't think we've paid attention to the course of human history over the last 1,000 years. Like humans, as much as we don't want to do the work, at the end of the day, we are obsessively, overbearing when it comes to what goes out in business. I don't really think that's going to end. So I think you yourself will become a pilot of these AI platforms. You just may not have 20 people working around you. You may have a couple. So when we discuss this with people, let's go through the security. Let's go through, hey, look, you're not going to lose your job. And then it starts settling down and they kind of understand it. So it's really helpful when you're working with a marketing person. Maybe there's like one person or two people, and they're trying to market this company that's making $50-60 million a year. That's a lot of work, and it's a lot that you have to do. And I think this makes their job easier. But once we have that conversation with them, they tend to settle down and then you start buying it.
So let's talk about OpenClaw. I mean,
Mhm.
all the other large language model companies are really looking what was done essentially over the course of a long weekend. And now they're actually taking some of that capability and mirroring it and bringing it in. So what use cases have you been testing right now?
I'll be very transparent. We literally just started it probably about 2 weeks ago. I mean, so
Yeah.
we're new to it as well. I ran some tests on it this weekend. So there's a couple things I took away. Number one, I was blown away with how strong it was. I could not believe it. Secondly, man, that gets expensive fast.
Okay.
And I heard this on another podcast. There's an AI podcast for marketing. Those two guys are real good, but it escapes me. But I heard them make this comment about, now you see why we're putting all this money towards AI build out and data centers and so forth, because it's very expensive to run this type of stuff. I'm talking, I was just testing out, upping up some tokens and so forth, some credits. I just did a 40-hour test. I'm talking 2-3 prompts in, it was gone. I'm like, whoa. And it's not that it's like not that big of a deal because we have a little bit of a budget, but I was like really taken back with how fast it ran through opposed to the other AI products that I've had. But then when you start piecing all of this together, you understand why there's this massive, data room build out and why there's this huge investment because of what's coming down the road with basically an agent. So when people are really pushing back about the investment in AI, this is a topic I think should be talked about a little bit more so you understand where this investment's going towards and why it is. Because if you go hands-on and see how expensive it is to run something like OpenClaw, and like no business can sustain those types of prices if you keep going on and on with that, and then say, okay, this is why we have to build the data centers out. So that cost starts getting lower and lower. Then I think it makes people understand the data centers, the investment in AI and so forth. And it's not talked about a lot on Wall Street and it should be.
Well, I mean, it's a utility. It's like the electrification era,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Having compute power now is like just having the internet or electricity. And maybe most people don't understand that, and they're concerned about the environment and, water usage, data centers, et cetera, but they're using it,
Yeah.
right? They like it. It's in their lives. It's in their pocket. It's in their smartphone. Um, Apart from marketing and sales, what other use cases are you seeing that are becoming quite common in terms of asks from your company?
Troubleshooting. So if they sell a product, where is there a way where typically they would have customer service get on the phone with people and walk them through like a problem, whether that would be like, some sort of, business equipment or machinery. Is there something that we could walk somebody through where a rep does not have to get on the phone or go out to the location and help them address and fix this with somebody, again, who has a little bit of technical knowledge? That is probably one of the biggest things we've gotten, because if somebody can grab their phone and start talking, people don't realize you can talk to these things now and actually video the problem or the sound or whatever, and it talks back to you and says, do this, do that. That's a massive upgrade on their customer service. And it doesn't, thin out, the amount of reps they have to send on the road, because in America right now, it's not overly easy to be hiring a lot of these people, especially people, working with their hands and getting out on the road and fixing stuff. So if they can do that, it allocates the reps towards jobs or, technicians who have to go out and actually have to go repair something, or quite honestly, reduce hiring that many customer service people. And then you can actually allocate that money over to more technicians on the street and so forth. So that's probably the biggest need, troubleshooting, and AI absolutely passes that with flying colors. It is a tremendous product to implement, and you can implement that really quickly.
I know one thing I'm doing is looking at all the subscriptions that I have that I'm paying for on a recurring monthly basis. And I'm
Yeah.
like, can I just build my own solutions myself? I mean, what are SaaS companies facing? Obviously, we see them injecting AI into what they have, but they must be nervous. What's your opinion on that?
I think they're dead.
Mm.
I've been telling people, like, I know, and this isn't me trying to, clickbait or I'll say this: being a digital marketing agency for the better part of 20 years, I was laughing when you said that, because the amount of money, operating costs it is for us to have
Mhm.
to run all the platforms we do. And we are still, at Theory, although we are transitioning more AI, we still do run a lot of campaigns for customers. Like, we're kind of on that line of where we're moving into AI running campaigns. However, the costs are crazy, but we have now systematically started replacing almost every single piece of software we've used, which is building it on our own in Replit, building on our own in Claude, and so forth. So that's just kind of how we have done it the entire time. And it's growing like that. So if you are a software company, here's what I tell people, and I say it all the time. Software, when you buy a software, think about all the software you have, right? You have to adhere to what they want you to do. You got to put your stuff in their parameters, right? So they have parameters and you got to follow them. What AI does when you develop it is it builds around you and your stuff. That's a fundamental difference, where software's moat was, okay, we built this entire infrastructure. Let's get your data to work within our infrastructure. Where AI is saying, hey, you don't need to do that. We'll custom build it around you. You tell us what you want and we'll go from there. And by the way, we'll do it really, really cheap. I don't know how Salesforce, HubSpot, the rest of these companies have any idea how they're going to survive. And that's my thought process. I believe software companies are the newspapers of 1999. And I think I'm not the only one saying this. I think people in my camp are going to be proven right very rapidly. I would not subscribe to a long-term contract on any type piece of software right now, let alone buy the stock, although I'm not giving opinions on that. That's just my opinion. Yeah, I'm kind of tough on the software companies, but I think their days are numbered.
Yeah, I mean, the unique selling point just does not exist anymore. And if you think about it, I've been in digital marketing almost 20 years too. And we've been using AI powered software for that time, right? This is kind of not new to us. We're kind of well placed in this AI age. But another thing that's happening, and you mentioned it at the outset, is the shift of where we're getting our information. So from the World Wide Web and search marketing to GEO and AEO, our website's going to have a life in the next 5 years.
They are. I think websites, the way they're going to live is they're going to be a repository or they're going to be your personal data room. So I think companies can always go to the website. I think there's always going to be a way to visit that because it is the virtual store. But your brand is going to live more prominently in like a ChatGPT operating system or in a Gemini, which is Google, or a Claude or Grok to a lesser extent. I think your brand will live in there. And where are those places pulling the information from? They're going to be pulling it from your website that will be private data rooms that are going to portal into there. And you're going to be uploading stuff there. Could customers and prospective clients go to your website? They could, but they are most likely just going to interact directly in again, like a ChatGPT. But you're still going to have that stuff because that's where you're going to have all of your information locked up. And I think you're going to want that private. You're not going to want to put all of your information just with ChatGPT or just with Gemini. So your website will be your private data room and you'll be plugging into all these different AI apparatuses. So the website worrying about what it looks like right now, like maybe like the navigation and the pretty images and the videos, that's all going to go by the wayside. And I think that your website will probably most likely morph into a chatbot and somebody will just talk to it and it'll pull up information they want, interact with you and so forth. So websites are not going to die. They're just going to kind of look like white boxes that you can visit, but not be what they are right now. And I think that's actually pretty soon. We're already starting to discuss some things with prospective clients of creating things like this where they know the importance of what's happening and they know that that's kind of what they want designed.
Talk to me a little bit about, you've mentioned how you've transitioned and the service that you're offering through your agency is so needed, so off its time. But what about the agencies that don't move? Because I know myself, what my clients were buying off me 3 years ago is not what they're buying off now because they can ask these huge knowledge brokers that are the large language models to put together social media strategies for them. So we've had to iterate. Are we going to see a shrinking of the market in our industry?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll be gutted by about 50-60%, if not a little bit more. There's no question. You just gave the answer like that. Why would I hire a social media company or a digital agency when I can just go to a GPT and it's going to give me a complete strategy? Now you still have to implement it. You still have to understand the data, which it can do as well. But that right there comes back to I think agencies are going to look very different. I think the days of the big holding companies on Madison Ave over here in Manhattan is going to look very, very different. You're going to look foolish by, hiring thousands and thousands of people in a marketing agency when you're going to be hiring 100, maybe less, and they're going to be running marketing stacks. That I think is what's going to happen. It's already happening now. So if I'm working at a large, holding a company right now, I don't feel great. But here's the other side about it. I do think copywriters are going to survive. I do think branders are going to survive. And I do think, creative is going to survive. And I'll tell you why. Because there's nothing quite like the human mind. And I do believe that they're going to be able to come up with concepts and ideas and talk with these GPTs to have them craft exactly what they're looking for from a design perspective, exactly what they're looking for from like maybe a content perspective. You're just not going to need a room of 50 creatives. You're going to have one or two excellent art directors who become really good at AI. And I'll be honest with you personally, as a marketer, and maybe you feel the same way, the stuff that they're going to create is probably going to be unbelievable in the next few years. But you're not going to need this massive team anymore. And I tell young kids, if they're coming out now, tread carefully in the marketing world. You really need to understand business processes, more than you think, than just worrying about a really pretty picture. And on the flip side of that, I also think the rise of influencer marketing is changing everything on how we're doing things. And there's going to be a very different way marketing is going to look. Like if you're coming up with this ad concept and all that, when you start looking at the influencer world and how people are interacting on Instagram and so forth, it looks old timey, right? It does. It's kind of compared to somebody talking about your product. So in a long-winded answer, yeah, I think we're going to get gutted. I think it's going to be ugly, but I think the ones that understand how to pilot it and understand how to leverage it and build teams around that, they're going to succeed and look really, really good.
Yeah, and linked to that, we saw that Meta bought Manus AI, right? And all those agencies that are running paid campaigns, and Mark Zuckerberg's ambition is that the whole thing will be automated on his platform. So again, the the companies themselves are introducing more AI solutions, and it's saying you don't need the people, but use our solution. Have you tried Manus yet?
No, haven't tried it. Somebody on my team, Rebecca, who's our paid manager, I think she might have taken a look at that. I know she's really been integrating a lot of the AI tools. She loves it. She likes what's happening with Google. I believe she's tested some stuff out on Facebook. And we're actually we're actually starting to test video ads that we're, creating on OpenAI and so forth. It's not Nano Banana, Sora. Like we're starting to and the videos, I don't know if you've done that. They're tremendous. So we have started testing some of this stuff and it is pretty good. And Sam Altman's the one who said it 3 years ago when he was interviewed for an AI book and they asked him about the future of marketing. He's like, marketing's going to be free. He goes, you're not going to pay for any of that stuff anymore. When I heard that, I was like, all right, we got to make a change right here, right now, because that's a pretty smart guy and that's a warning. And we're going to go ahead and see what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen.
Len, you and I were thinking the exact same thing because I tell this story on stages and on this podcast. And when I watched him on stage in November 2022, I said, oh my God, I've got to rethink what I'm doing. And in that moment, I made an intention to begin to pivot and to begin, retraining my clients on what my offering was and, where I think they should be going, because you really have to justify your existence in the age of AI. And I ask people, got to be able to succinctly explain the value that you bring in the age of AI, because the disruption is literally immediate. Are you excited about this age? It's quite remarkable that we're getting to live through it and work through it.
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, I had a chance to live through the dot-com era too, which was awesome. I think this is even better. And you made a great point right there about you had to make a change. Marketers we're discounting it's the end of marketing and all that we're all hearing. But, when you get a new client in the front door and it's an industry that you've never learned before, but you're really interested for the client. And we've all had clients where we've never worked in the industry before. We have no idea. But marketers, the good ones, throw their entire being into that to understand how to market it, understand the ICPs, the TAM, all those technical terms you got to know, and walk away and say, I could probably work in this industry. Like now that I've learned so much. So logically, marketers are an excellent person to bridge into the AI world because of how we have to digest and learn things, not just on one industry, but on the good marketers can do it on any industry. And that's where I think marketers should be looked at as, if you're going to bridge to the transition, you want somebody to help you, I would probably hire a marketer first, just because of how they research.
Let's look at the evidence. Anthropic and OpenAI are now offering top communications and marketing jobs in the region of like $750,000 because they know that, and I say it in my book, is that AI is communications, it's not coding, yes. Right? Bingo. So marketers, if you're listening to this and you're fearful, just look at what Len does. Listen to how he's explaining how his agency is transitioning and adding such value to the customer. Probably the best value we've ever brought to our customers, Len. Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah, I think what we're doing right now is I think this is something we're almost kind of really charting our course for the next, decade or whatever it may be. And I agree. I think this value is great. And you know what? As a marketer, I feel good because you understand this better than anybody. Our entire existence is the bane of my existence is how many leads do we get this month? When in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but we built the brand more. And you may not have got the leads today, but in 18 months time, what we did, you're going to see results of that. So to be able to go to clients and show instant business outcomes, instant marketing outcomes, where we're not solely focused on lead, which burned out a lot of great marketers, a lot of great internal teams. And now that they can see that the brand finally has taken a priority over the actual just getting a lead through the front door, at that point, you say to yourself, yeah, I do feel good because we are delivering something very valuable to a client. And that's, as a marketer, that it gets frustrating sometimes when it's like they just focus on a lead, when it's like there's in marketing and sales, there's so much we have to build out besides, yes, the lead is a goal, but if you just live by the lead, especially in this day and age where your brand has now become even more important, you're the company that's going to get gobbled up by AI. That's going to be a problem.
I could talk to you all day, I suspect, about AI and our industry and where it's going. This has been such a wonderful conversation. But quick fire round before I let you go. If somebody is listening to this, they're on the fence of AI and that they haven't just thrown themselves in, where do they start?
So I give this advice a lot, and this is I'll do 3 pieces of advice. So the first thing you need to do, take away any single time you get a chance to listen about AI, read about AI, take 15, 20 minutes a day and just try to do that. But here are the things I would do right now. Number 1, identify an individual in your office or yourself and make sure if you're the owner of the company I'm talking to, make sure you're hands-on with this. Start identifying all pieces of data you have, whether it's online, offline, whatever it may be, and start organizing what's called data rooms and properly organize all of your information, whether that's marketing, whether that's SOPs, whatever it may be. Have all of it. Put in something simple like Dropbox, put in something like Google Drive, something along those lines. Work with your IT companies and do that. That would be pretty much step 1. Step 2 is, like I said, look and try to get an AI chatbot on your website. Start listening to what people are asking what your website is and so forth, and try to, develop like content around what they're saying to you. And just so you have like that idea. So you have a data room that's hooked up to a chatbot. This is not hard to do, by the way. We can assist, but it's not hard. Then you have those 2 things going. And then every day as a business owner, make sure you have ChatGPT open. Make sure that you are interacting with it. Be careful about what type of, company information you're putting out there. But at the end of the day, say, what did we talk about today? What did we learn? What did we not learn? And what do I need to do tomorrow? If you do that every single day and then cut, paste, put that on a Word doc, maybe every Friday, read through every single thing you have. I can absolutely promise you this. If you do that every day, because AI is telling you what you need to learn and is telling you, how you have to do these things, you will never worry about AI getting so fast, speeding up so much that your company can't compete. That won't happen anymore. But take the time, do the journal. So again, get an AI chatbot on your website, organize your internal data, interact with ChatGPT or Gemini, and have them tell you what you learned, didn't learn, and what you need to go going forward.
Great advice. And I know you're not too agnostic. What's your favorite large language model? Do you have a favorite AI child?
Man, we run everything on ChatGPT, but I got to be honest with you. I think Google's Gemini product is really undervalued. I just wish they knew. I know they're trying to figure out how to monetize this with pay-per-click and all these different types of things. That's my big, hey, if we're moving from search and retrieve to solve my problem, pay-per-click and all that's not really a thing. But if I had to pick one right now to use, I think I like Gemini working with Notebook LLM. I don't know if you've worked with that yet, but when you pair those 2 together, that to me is the most powerful thing out there.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Len, people should definitely connect with you on LinkedIn. And where else should we direct them? And I'll put the links in the show notes.
They can just go to Commexis.com, and if you want to have a conversation, fill out a form. Our team's small. We're very selective on who we work with, and I'm always the one that picks up the phone and has a conversation with you.
Love it. Well, listen, thank you for beaming in from the United States to the west coast of Ireland, and an absolute pleasure and continued success, my friend.
Thanks. Same to you.